I'd like to welcome each and every individual to Voices of Integrity podcast for legacy partners and VAs and EVAs and everybody. This one is going to be a weird one. It might like there's a lot like this is the year of connecting the dots. And so last year was not connecting the dots. I wanted to feel what it was like to be stupid and see two dots. So when you have dots, you go one, two, three, four. This year, I'm connecting the dots for people. This one has a lot of dots and it's hard to connect. It's just a weird mind. And so um, it goes back to when I was 21, 22 years old. Roseanne and I were married, and I had a cousin who was about 10 years younger than I was, and he was deaf. So I think his mom had measles when she was pregnant, and so he was deaf. So I wondered, we're a young married couple and we're planning to have kids. And I'm like, we could have a handicapped child. Or you got to call them special needs now. Why do people waste so much time on just stupid stuff anyways? Um, and so, anyways, I'm like, it'd be good for me to study what it's like to have, I'm just going to say, because I'm 61 years old and I just say, handicapped child. So I'm like, so I asked my aunt, I said, Aunt Nancy, I'm just curious, like, what's it like to have a son who's handicapped, who, is deaf? And she looked at me and she laughed. And she said, Mark, he's just like every other child. He knows how to use his disability to get what he wants in life. And I'm not sure this is good for him. So over the years, Synergy's employed a lot of, handicapped people. So we had somebody who is delayed speech disorder. We had somebody who was deaf. We've never had somebody who was blind. We've had a bunch of ADD, ADHD, bunch of, bipolar and skids. There's a whole bunch of different things. And so number of physical stuff. And so what I found with handicap people like Dominic Bovenzo, he was a delayed speech disorder. And his mom came in to do the interview with him, and I asked him questions, and she wouldn't shut her mouth. Like she kept answering for him. I'm like, Mrs. Bovenzo, can I go? I need Dominic to go ahead and, I need Dominic's to respond if he could. She's like, well, he really can't. Well, I can't talk, so I need him because I'm gonna be working with him. So, and then she's like, and so he was like, I don't know, 23, 24 maybe, and he didn't have a driver's license. And she's like, he'll never be able to get a driver's license. So my experience in working with handicapped adults is their biggest challenge is their parents. And, so their parents. And then Mike Katura, he had severe autism, like big time. And he worked for us for, I don't know, 29 years, a long time. And so I learned a lot about, like, with Mike, Mike Katura did an internship before he went full time. And, I don't know, a week or so into working, he went into the bathroom and hit his head against the wall. Like, that kind of freaked me out. Like, that can't be safe to bang your head against the wall. And two, it's really disruptive to all your other coworkers. So I'm like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do. So I call his mom and I say, Mrs. Katura, like Mike is banging his head against the wall in the bathroom and I don't know what to do. She's like, oh, yeah, no problem. Just go ahead and knock on the door and say, hey, Mike, do you want me to call your mom? I'm like, what? She was a nurse. His dad was blue collar. And so I knocked on the door and said, hey, Mike, you want me to call your mom? He's like, now. I'm like, okay, well, You can't be banging your head again. And that fixed it. In the 29 years or whatever it was, I only had to ask him. I never had to call his mom. I just, when he got into that state, there was some type of a trigger. Now, what does that have to do with working with people internationally? So I believe we all have handicap. My particular handicap is I have social autism. And so we won't go into that. You can look at my website, find out, that. But I believe we all have handicap. And so people use their handicap to go ahead, like the Amish. Okay. They didn't learn English until they were 6 years old. So it's not their native language. This gives them a huge disadvantage and a huge advantage. I mean, it's both. And so one thing that they can do is they can pretend not to understand. Sometimes they don't, but sometimes they do, but they'll pretend not to. And as an English, you don't know which one it is. You're like, it's kind of like being a parent. You're like, though my kids are sneaky little buggers. So it's good to have children in business because then you learn a lot about. So Jonathan and I, like this was 21 years ago, 22 years ago. He and I went over our oldest son. He was 12, 13, and he was in video. Like he did video, and he had Brian Bessler. So obviously, if your life vision is to, reach 8+ billion people, you got to do video. You probably got to be an author and a speaker. You got to do a bunch of stuff that you don't really like doing. So Jonathan, I won't give you the full story, but Baptists are very conservative. So we had to sign an agreement when we joined the church that we would never go to movies. Like we couldn't go to movies. So that's how my kids were raised. And so the first, I don't know, until I got kicked out of that church, like we didn't go to movies, and so Jonathan didn't go to movies, at least not with his parents. I'm not saying he never snuck a movie with his friend. I'm just saying didn't go to movies. And he wanted to be a movie maker. Like what a strange, like that was one of his life vision. Like he wanted to be a producer of movies. And so we hired Brian Bessler, who is a genius and he was getting his master's degree. And Jonathan was probably, I don't know, 10 or 11 years old. And he loved, wanted to be a movie maker. And so I said to Brian, he did an internship with us and doing video production. So we had all the high end, video production stuff. We got the high end cameras. So we spent a lot of money. So I had an entire division in Synergy that was video production. And so I said, hey, Brian, would you mind mentoring, Jonathan? He's all, oh, absolutely. And Brian came back like a week later, said, that kid's insane. Like, it's amazing. Like, I thought it was going to take months. He just picked stuff up. I mean, he just picked it up just like this. So a lot of times people don't realize, like, I know you guys all probably think I'm in my 20s. I'm not. I'm 61 years old. And so you don't realize if you're young how much experience a 61-year-old guy has. Like this dude, he's been around the world and he's got experience. And so a lot of times people will explain things to me, not realizing I know more than they know about whatever they're talking about. And I don't want to be rude to them. I don't want to say, hey, Saad, I know what you're saying already. I don't want to interrupt people because that's rude. But I can because I have social autism. But my wife is like, you can't use that as an excuse. It's not an excuse. It's a real thing. And my therapist, Beth Smith, from Europe, she says she validates it is a real thing. Anyways, won't go there. And so Jonathan and I went over to Africa. And so I don't know. I mean, I think I'm going to take another 13 minutes and whatever we can get in, maybe we have a part two. So we go over to Africa and, he's 13 years old and he's doing video production and all this kind of stuff. So pretty familiar with, all of that and from production and everything. And so we go over there and the first 3 days, so we were over there for 3 weeks. So the the first 3 days, they brought us and they showed us. So we told them Life Masteries wanted to hire 3 people from Africa, from the Gambia. It was West Africa. So we were going to hire 3 people. That was our main mission, to hire 3 people that would take Life Masteries into Africa. And so for 3 days, they introduced us to politicians. They introduced us to like top government and business and medical. Like they introduced us to very wealthy and affluent people. And but that's not who I wanted to help. I wanted to help the people in the bush. I wanted to help the people that needed help. I didn't want the other. So we sit down, Jonathan, again, he's 12 or 13. We sit down and these, African people that, the Gambians, the leaders of these groups and organizations that invited us over to speak, they went ahead and they sat down, and the agreement was, before we ever went, the agreement was that they would help us find 3 people to hire, and they would help us find 3 people to hire, and then Life Masteries would pay them directly. And then because they helped us, we would allocate 20% of their time to helping these other people. That was kind of exchange of services. So that was the agreement before we came over. So we sat down, and this is important. So this would be good, Mary Jo, to have everybody that's international to go ahead and watch this video, because it's an international video. How do you work with international? And so that was my second trip. A few years earlier, I'd gone to Russia with my oldest daughter, Ginger Ann, when she was 11 years old. And then I went to Israel and Egypt with my wife. And so anyways, so we sat down and they said, how'd it go? And like, we like it. Yeah, thank you. You guys have been great hosts and everything. And they said, okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and you're going to pay, Life Masteries is going to pay us, and then we're going to manage the resources. And I'm like, well, that's not what the agreement was. No, the agreement was, you guys are going to help us find the resources. We're going to pay them directly. And then they're going to work 20% of their time will work with you guys. And they're like, well, that's not how it's going to work. I said, no, that's exactly how it's going to work. They're like, you don't understand the African culture. And I said, you don't understand natural laws. Here I'm in Africa. I don't know anybody, like with my son. And they're like, you don't understand African culture. This is how they changed the rules of the game on me. And when we were over in Russia, all the Russian translators were laughing, and we're like, why are you laughing? And then they wouldn't tell us. And we had this feeling that they were saying something about us, and we pushed them and they said, we were saying, you dumb Americans, which is kind of true, right? Like Americans by and large know only one language, except the Amish. They know too. So I don't even know English that well. And so it's not that they're wrong. So Americans think they're the center of the universe, and they think, a whole bunch of stuff, and, whatever. They think they're really smart, whatever. Anyways, so I had some experience, but Africa was a whole different world. And so I said, no, that's not how it's going to go. No, we had an agreement. We're going to keep that agreement. See what you guys don't understand. They're like, you don't understand African culture. I said, you don't understand natural laws. Like natural laws trump every culture. Every culture is going to be trumped by this. This is integrity. We agreed to do something. We're going to do it. Well, that's not how it's going to work here, Mark. Because if you go ahead and do that, we're going to abandon you. We're not going to help you at all. Excuse me? So they're the ones that invited us over. They got us from the airport. They got us into the hotel. We paid for our own trip, but they're the ones that know everybody. So they think, well, we've got Mark where we want him. Like we have leverage. Like he's over here with his son. I said, see, you guys don't understand. You're misunderstanding this. You think I'm in education, government, or religion. I'm not here for government, education, or religion. I'm here for business. I am here for business. Life Mastery wants to change everything, but I'm a businessman. And if you don't have integrity, I don't work with you. Like, I don't work with you. You don't change the rules of the game. You just don't. This is what we agreed to. And they're like, fine, if you're going to have that opinion, we're not going to work with you. I'm like, okay. We're done. Like, we're done. So we go to our room, and every morning, like the first 3 mornings, we come down for breakfast. They had a breakfast at the hotel and stuff. Nice hotel right on the ocean. Beautiful place. Inside the hotel. When you got outside the hotel, like, it was interesting. So I'm walking around at night, with a 12-year-old boy, and I feel that it's safe-ish. We're careful and stuff like that. But there were 2 or 3 nights I went out without him, which was really intriguing. And that's when I got propositioned by women and girls, which was interesting. Like, when I had him, I didn't get propositioned by women and girls to come back to the hotel when I was with him. So again, it's just heart-wrenching. It's just like, these are young girls, and it's like, you got to be kidding. And then so we go down to breakfast the next morning, and he says to me, he's like, Dad, do you think they're going to be down there, or are they really going to abandon us? I'm like, probably 50-50. Like, he was freaking out the night before. He's like, Dad, we don't know anybody. We're in Africa. We don't know anybody. I'm like, right? And so we go down to breakfast. They don't show up. They abandoned us. They did what they told. So they can't have integrity when they want to, but wrong integrity. And he's like, what are we going to do, Dad? I'm like, we're entrepreneurs, buddy. It's not a big deal. It'll be fine. And he's like, okay. He's kind of freaking out a little bit. So we finish our breakfast, and the manager of the hotel comes up to us. Like, we had met him and shook hands and stuff like that, but he came up to us. He said, I kind of hear a rumor that you guys kind of got into it a little bit with your hosts. I said, yeah, they kind of didn't have integrity. He says, well, I've got like 20 young people that meet at my home like every Sunday night. It was a Sunday, and every Sunday, afternoon, evening, and wondered if you guys could come over there. I said, that'd be great. We got nothing to do, so we're good. And he says, well, I don't have electricity. I don't have plumbing. I don't have any of that. It's like, it's no problem. It's no problem. We went over there, and I'm telling you, that was crazy. Jonathan's shooting the camera. He's doing the video shoot. I'm teaching them. They're hungrier than all get out. They think American business people are really smart. I'm like, so how many business, in America, if you have 100 business people, how many of them succeed? And they're like, all 100? I'm like, no, 97% of them are going to die. They're going to go out of business within 7 years. They couldn't believe that. I think American business people are smart. I'm like, they're not. They're just tenacious. I mean, the real ones, they just keep doing it until they figure out. They're like, it was amazing. So we get through that and do a training session. And then they say, well, what do we do? And I said, well, I don't know. What do you guys want to do? So we collaborated, and we had, and we decided to do an event. So a week later, we had over 200 people come in for that event. Like, from in the bush, they're driving Jeeps, and there's 20 people on the Jeep. And that would have been 2013. So that'd be 17, 18, 19 years ago. No, something like that, over 20 years ago. And so they didn't, most of them, like 80% of them didn't have electricity or plumbing, but like 90% of them 20 years ago had emails. So they had email cafes, and Jonathan got written up because he went into an email cafe and they had an issue with the programming or with a computer, and he fixed it. And so they got all excited about that. Then he was written up as this wonder kid in there. And so we had all these people coming in from the bush and everywhere. And the sponsors, the host, came back to us. And they said, Mr. Boersma, we had a misunderstanding. I'm like, okay. Like, sorry for the misunderstanding. And so we had this event. They also, when I told them Jonathan was going to speak, they said, no, he's not going to speak. But he actually did speak. And after the presentation, I had 3-4 people around me. He had like, I don't know, 10, 15, 20 people around him. He was a hit. It was unbelievable. But what I learned is we went around and they had 2 prices in Africa, one for Africans and one for Americans. And I don't judge that. It's like, yeah, I don't judge it. I don't think it's wrong for them to do that. But, an entrepreneur, they kind of understand this stuff and how the game's played. And so we want to help as many people as we can from Africa. And so to do that, you watch the dollar. So what they'll often do is overseas, you'll ask them for a price, or you negotiate everything up front, because what they do is they use leverage. They use massive leverage, just like your kids do. I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm just saying it's probably not the best thing to do with me, because you know what? And so if people change the rules of the game, and when they change the rules of the game, then they act dumb. They're like, well, we didn't understand you. Now, sometimes this is true. Sometimes people don't understand. And so what they try to do is they try to get leverage on you, and then they go ahead and change rules of the game because they're thinking short term. They're not thinking long term. And so for me, trust is everything. And the thing that's hardest is you don't really know when people are gaming you, and when there's legitimately communications issues. And so Saad, I was concerned with you because you write really well and articulate, and it's clear, and it's like, so I don't mind using AI. The challenge is AI doesn't help you to understand what's being said. And so when you started and you said you had 4 resources, and then you said, this is how much I'm paying them. So you were honest. People who are honest with me, I just like working with them, because I just need to know what's the story. And so, you said, this is what I'm paying them. I'm like, okay. So I came back a week ago and said, okay, are you willing to go ahead? Are you willing to go ahead and, take this? And so I thought you would make some money. They would make some money. And so everybody would make some money, and it would be consistent work, and it would be easy work. It's not like video editing like Jonathan did when he was 11 years old. It's not that. All it is processing videos. You just take the raw footage, you put it into, a YouTube format, and then you slap a front end on it, you slap a back end on it. All it is an assembly line. Even I could do it. Like, it's not brain surgery. It's not rocket science. It's really easy to do. It's very, very simple to do. It's not complicated at all. Like, pretty much anybody who can follow directions can do it. Now, you would have probably known this if you would have done what I directed you to do, Saad, if you'd have talked to Adam. Now, Adam, he's also over in Pakistan. So you think Pakistanians care about other Pakistanians. They don't, any more than black care about black, or women care about women, or men care about men. They don't. So in the black community, I've noticed this too, is they don't share very well. They don't help one another very well. I'm not saying that's true in Pakistan. I don't have enough experience, but people are often, they're thinking like employees. So they're thinking like employees. They think that there's a finite amount of work, meaning a little amount of work. It's defined. And if Elaine, I think she likes her work. Mary Jo likes her work. So, and they get paid to do that. And so why would they want to give up something they're getting paid and they like doing to somebody else? It's not normal. It's not natural. So most of the time, people won't give up. So I never know. And my own kids are like this. My own children is like, do you not realize your dad has your best interest at heart? Do you not realize that if you give up something, I'm going to help you get something more that you're going to enjoy even more and you're going to make even more money on this? And so a lot of times there's not trust. There's not trust between cultures. So Amish don't trust English, English don't trust Amish. You know, Pakistanis don't trust, Americans, Americans don't trust Pakistanians. Um, so nobody trusts anybody else. And I get it. I mean, I get it. I understand why this is. And this is often why things don't work for people, because there's not integrity. People aren't doing what they said they were going to do. And when people don't do that, and they rationalize it. So overseas, people have an idea of how much Americans make. So they say, Mary Jo makes a lot more than me, and I'm doing the same thing that Mary Jo's doing. I should get paid what she does. Well, are you paying the same amount for rent or mortgage or, cars or like in living in America, you pay a lot more. So you pay a lot more for things. And so you have to, so it's different. Like if you lived in America, well, you'd probably make what Americans make, but then you'd pay what Americans pay too. So it's not, so people don't think that. And, and how do you train them in that? It's hard. Anybody have any questions or thoughts on this? So Mary Jo and Elaine, you both being Amish, you know, you have some understanding. So you look at yourself and you look at English and you say, okay, there are some Amish you don't trust and some English you do. Like this is true with everything. And so the key is with Life Masteries Institute, you know, they want people give money to Life Masteries. They're not paying for things. I mean, sometimes they are, but a lot of times they're giving money. And so Life Masteries is a nonprofit. Just like a business, it needs to steward its resources well. And so as there's more revenue coming in, then Life Masteries will be generous. Its goal is to give money to other nonprofit organizations. Before it does that, it's going to go ahead and reward the people within Life Masteries. And Elaine has access to all of the books. She has access to all of Life Masteries books. So she and I have known each other for, I don't know, 2-3 years. So she and I are not related. She is not my daughter. She's a neighbor. She lives down the street from us. So, and so she has access to all of Life Masteries books. So she knows this is what's happening in Life Masteries. I don't make any money. I don't get any money from Life Masteries. I give a lot of money and give a lot of time to Life Masteries. It's a nonprofit organization. She also has access to Synergy's books, the company that I own. And the other 8 companies, she has access to that. She also has access to all of our personal. So she's aware of all of our personal stuff too. And so she knows when there's an uptick, when there's profit, when there's additional revenue, when there's stuff coming in, she sees that it's built within Life Masteries, within the culture of Synergy, to be generous. But to be generous, you have to, like Tom Kuntz says, you have to have the money. And they don't, and overseas has no idea how much time and money is invested into developing them. They just don't. They don't value my time. They can't. So I think I'll finish with one last story. So how much is my time worth? Well, based on the X-ray a number of years ago, it was worth $5,000 an hour. So if I'm taking an hour in developing somebody, training something, like I don't get paid anything for training, coaching, mentoring of people, developing people. I spend more time and money and resources developing VAs, EVAs, and LPs than I do with clients who are paying us a lot of money, a lot more time. So I said to Synergy, the team, I said, hey, help me get it to $10,000 an hour. This is what I call my good news, bad news, great news story. And so they were poking me, prodding me, looking over my shoulder. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, they captured me at $155,000 an hour. The good news on that is, like, let me tell you, when you're tracking 155,000 an hour, man, do you feel good? Like, holy cow. Like, I guess I'm not some dumbass. I mean, sorry. I guess I'm not you know what? My time is valuable. I'm at $155,000 an hour. The good news is you feel great. The bad news is it was only 2 minutes long. And the great news is we knew what 2 minutes it was. So that was, I don't know, 15, 20 years ago. So I'm like, how do I put those back to back time together? And so what you do is you build an assembly line. Like the Amish are really good at this, and the RV factory. So you get somebody who specializes in this and specializes in this and specializes in this and specializes in this. And what they do with an 8th grade education is they can make $100,000 a year working in an RV factory. Most of them don't like it. They don't want to work there, but they work like 6 hours a day. They get tons of time off. It's a great job and you make a lot of money. They work like crazy. They get more work done in 6 hours than most people do if they're working 12 hours. So they earn everything they get in the factory. It is a machine. You can't even, it's crazy how it is. And so what we're seeking to do is build a system like the RV where people can make a lot of money and work a reasonable amount of hours, whatever hours they want to work. And what's even more cool is we want to create it to where they actually enjoy the work they're doing. Like they actually look forward to it and say, man, and that's where the ownership. So you have ownership in different pieces of the whole thing. So, in helping people, so Mary Jo, you're leading up right now, the onboarding of people. So people need to watch this, and then you need to talk to them. Like Mark talks fast, and there's terms that people don't even know what he's talking about. And then they don't know how to internalize it. They project into my own heart what their own heart is. They don't understand. And so if somebody lies to me once or misleads me, if I don't, I'm going to help people get to their goals, but it's going to take more than a week. And so I believe working with Life Masteries Institute and the many networks of businesses, I believe that somebody will make more money than they can do anything else in their life. And I think they can enjoy what they're doing and work with a great group of people where we're all learning, growing. We're all equal. Nobody's better. Nobody's I'm not better than anybody else. And so it's a wonderful opportunity to change the world through business and through community-based organizations. But it takes a different way of thinking. And if somebody, and I think Elaine and Mary Jo, I think both of you, the more you are aware of yourselves, the more you're going to be able to impact the world, because you know how it feels to maybe not understand the words people are saying. And do you just say, I don't understand that word? Do you look it up? Do you just try to piece it together where you don't maybe feel like you feel like an outsider? You feel like you don't belong, or maybe you're not as smart, or maybe this or that, or you're not confident or whatever. And so you both have better experiences probably in being Amish than I have. So I've been internationally, but I've never lived, that until I moved here. And then I go to Amish and I go to the schools and I am a minority. But what's weird there is that I think they're more scared of me. I'm not. I think it's cool. I mean, I feel really comfortable and they're really nice. They're a lot nicer to me than Baptists are. Like, wow. And so, anyways, it's like, it's very much like a family. Hopefully, we're trying to be a high functioning family, like not a low functioning, but like I think of family, and it's not my family. Like when I think what family should be, it's not even like my own kids. Like we're trying to do it, and so every culture, every way of life has something beneficial. So there's something beautiful about the Black community. There's something beautiful about the Hispanic, the Latino. There's something beautiful about Pakistan. There's something beautiful about India. There's something beautiful about China and Russia. And that's one of the reasons I think that America has been blessed so much, is because it is a melting pot. I mean, it's all of these different ideas coming together, and there's not really very many places in the world that are like that, where you have all of these different experiences coming together. And we want to be the epitome of that. We want to be the pinnacle of that. So I went a little bit longer. Hopefully, this was helpful. Always remember, we can accomplish so much more together than we ever could on our own. Have an amazing day. Bye bye.